after waiting 2 weeks, finally arrived. This is my brand new turbo for the Scirocco. And at this point, the car's just been sat doing nothing, so I don't even know if it starts. The airbox and stuff isn't on, so let's just give it a go, see if it starts. First try, just like that, after 2 weeks. That just tells me the car is absolutely sound. Engine light's still on, still flashing. It's got absolutely no diesel in it, so I need to get that changed. And I think one of the reversing light bulbs is out, because I've got a light on my dash. But today's the day we finally get this new turbo on and the Scirocco fixed. But first, let me tell you the story of why I've been waiting 2 weeks to get this new turbo. First, I ordered a turbo for around £230, which is an amazing deal, but I think I got scammed. Luckily, I did get my money back, but the turbo never arrived, no tracking or nothing. Then I ordered another one, which required a £200 deposit to send this old turbo back, which I don't get. I shouldn't be having to pay £200 just to send this turbo back. You should be paying me. So I cancelled that one, and now this one's arrived. This one was £300, and this is the third turbo that I'm going to try, and hopefully it's the right one. So this is the new replacement turbo for my Scirocco. And inside the kit you get a new pair of gloves, a new gasket set with all new nuts and bolts, and finally the turbo itself. And it looks like a decent bit of kit, so hopefully this should do the job and clear that engine light so the Scirocco can get back on the road. So this car was reported to have a turbo fault, but after plugging it in, it gave us a code which made me suspect that the actual actuator had gone rather than the whole turbo, because there's no smoke, no oil leaks, and it still drives absolutely fine. So I'm not fully convinced that the turbo has actually gone. So now all that's left to do is to get the old turbo out and put the new one in. So the first things first, we need to get the car up on the ramps and disconnect the airbox that we took off in the last video. We also need to take off this pipe, which is just on 2 Jubilee clips, which we also removed in the last video. And then disconnect the electrical connector going to the actuator. And any other pipes that are going to the actuator. Next, we need to take off the oil feed pipe, which is just on a 17mm nut, I believe. Then we have to take off the DPF clamp, which connects the DPF to the turbo itself, so we can get access to the manifold bolts in front of the DPF. I'm also taking off the heat shield, which is on 3 10mm bolts, just for better access to the manifold bolts. We also need to take off 2 bolts which is underneath the car, which is connecting the DPF to the engine block, and once they're removed you should be able to move the DPF pretty freely. You also need to disconnect the oil pipe, which is underneath the turbo as well. I'm not going to lie, this is the hardest shit that I've ever had to do. Volkswagen haven't made it easy. But all that's left to do now is to take the manifold bolts off.
5 hours later.
Just like that, after 5 hours of strenuous work, the old turbo is finally off. 10 out of 10, wouldn't recommend. I mean, just look at me. Now that the turbo is in position and on the manifold, all that's left to do is tighten the manifold bolts, put the oil lines on, and then put the DPF on. And I'm sorry I couldn't record it all because I'm right under the car and it's hard to record whilst trying to undo these bolts. But if you're thinking about replacing your turbo on your Scirocco, then don't do it. Now everything underneath the car is done, so all that's left to do is whatever's up here, like the airbox, DPF clamp, a couple of pipes. There's not that much left to do, so let's crack on. So once you get all 8 manifold bolts on, all that's left to do is to do everything but in reverse. So we put the DPF in place and put the clamp on, as well as our 2 bolts underneath the car.
Then I'm going to reconnect the O2 sensor that I took off. And then plug the actuator back in. Along with any other electrical connectors that we took off. Next, we've got to put the DPF heat shield on, which is just on 3 10mm bolts. Then we've got to reconnect this hose. And that gets tightened up by 2 T20s, which connects to the turbo. And make sure you don't forget to tighten up the Jubilee clips as well. Once that's done, we can start reconnecting the airbox, and this just sits on 2 T20s either side. Then we can put the intake system with the air filter in, which basically just clips in place with a T25 on the side.
Final piece of the puzzle. Once we put this airbox on, we can finally start up and see if it's leaking oil.
So at this point my heart's kind of racing because I've never replaced the turbo before, and this was one of my hardest challenges that I've ever done. But we managed to do it in the end. But the real test is to see if it starts and if it leaks any oil and if it holds any boost.
Now that should be everything connected. I'm going to leave the airbox slightly loose just in case. But now is the ultimate test. I think now we can start it up. The turbo is now fitted, everything is back together. But the real question is, does the Scirocco start? Well, it's time to find out.